These little envelopes hold the secret to your entire garden success this year. If only you knew how to read all the fine details on these guys. Today we're going to go through and figure out how to read a seed packet, both the front and the back. Oh, and grab your favorite beverage, sit back and relax, because later in this video I'll show you how to get a free printable guide for all this information I'm giving you. Don't worry about taking notes. So first off, let's read the front of a seed packet. You got many different types of seeds here, many different things on the seed packet. What can we get from some of these seed packets? Well, number one, a lot of these seed packets will give you the information on the name of the item that's on there. This one, for example, is Long Island dill, actually Mammoth Long Island dill. Tells me one, it's dill, tells me what variety is. This probably is more so true with the tomato varieties. For example, this is a German pink. I have a Prairie Fire. It gives you an excellent picture of a tomato. Granny Cottrell. Now, you may not be able to tell by very much of these what each one is, but I could tell you this right here, this Prairie Fire tomato looks like a plum tomato. So this is gonna be a good canning tomato. These other two probably gonna be good for slicing, just because you can tell from the pictures there. The next thing you can get from these front of the seed packets is whether these guys are heirloom or hybrid tomatoes or vegetables, whatever they are. This seed packet right here says heirloom variety on it. So we definitely know that this is an heirloom. Now, these all came from Baker Creek, which is a fantastic seed company. I highly suggest you check them out, rareseeds.com. I'm not affiliated with them, but I always order from them. So these guys are from an heirloom seed company. So primarily everything they have is heirloom seeds. So you know for sure that these are going to be heirloom seeds. Now every once in a while you get a packet that says hybrid. This is from Johnny Seeds, also another good company to open from. This one actually says hybrid specialty onions. This is a blush onion, so this is going to be a hybrid onion. Now where that comes important is the heirlooms, they're going to be true to seed. So if you grow an heirloom, most likely the seeds are going to produce something just like the parent plant. If you grow a hybrid and you take the seeds from it and replant it, you're probably most likely not going to get something that's going to be like the parent plant. That's where the difference between heirloom and hybrid seeds come from. Now hybrids are probably a little bit better for beginner gardeners, as they are more disease resistant and tolerant. They were bred for those purposes. That's why they put two different tomatoes together to get that specialty tomato, that hybrid tomato. Now sometimes also on the front they'll put whether this is a annual or a perennial. An annual is a flower or a vegetable that comes back, or that does not come back every year. Basically you plant it once and it's done. Once the winter hits, once again, and reaches the end of its growing cycle, that plant is done. Now a perennial will come back for year after year. Now that can be 2 years, it could be multiple years, it could be 20 years, but perennials will come back year after year after year. So you want to kind of keep that when you're looking at some of these, kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at some of these seed packets. A lot of time the front has a lot more information than what you think. It could be a lot better than just a pretty picture. Now, that can also be found on the back of the seed packet. The back of the seed packet is where all the nuts and bolts of the information is stored. So on here, you'll have the type. This one right here says it's a perennial. This is a Alaska Shasta daisy. Also on here, this seed packet in particular gives you a ton of information. It gives you the height, the planting depth, the seed spacing, what you should thin it out to, the spacing after the thinning, and days to germination. It also gives you a nice good example of what the plant is going to be whenever it grows up. It also has a date stamped on here. So the date that's stamped on here are the sell-by dates for the seed company. Now that doesn't mean that these seeds are going to go bad after 2024, 2025. You can still plant the seeds, but that kind of gives you a good roundabout idea on how old the seeds are. Now, the older the seed, the less likely it is to germinate, but you're still going to be likely to germinate a bunch of them. So if you have an older seed packet, plant a few extra seeds in there. That'll give you plenty of options for picking out the best plants, and you should have a decent germination rate that you should get enough plants that you want. On here we got, this one is a perennial. I do have a couple seed packets that are annuals. Tells you One thing that you want to look for is the sprout and how quick it sprouts. That'll give you an idea on whether the seed's viable or not. If it doesn't sprout within 10 days like it said it should, then the seeds are probably not viable. The other thing that you want to look at is days to maturity. So what does days to maturity mean? Does it mean that the days to maturity mean that when you plant that little seed in the ground, is that seed going to actually become mature in 60 days from that day that you plant that seed into the ground? Now this is something I've always kind of been confused on, so I've been doing a little bit of research on, and I found that I was probably a little bit wrong on this whenever I first started out with things. And you know, I'm a seasoned gardener, so we all can make mistakes. Likewise, the internet doesn't hold everything that's true either, so you kind of take everything with a grain of salt. Kind of the guidelines here for the days to maturity of, if you direct sow, let's say you direct sow this broccoli into your garden bed outside already, the days to maturity are going to be from when you planted that seed in the garden. Now let's say you do this like I do in here and start in your grow room, and you plant this in a tray into the grow room. The days to maturity are going to be when you transplant that plant out into the garden. If a tomato says that it's going to be mature 80 days, the days to maturity is 80 days. If I plant that seed in the garden, 80 days later, I should be getting fruit. If I plant that seed inside in a little seedling tray and raise it up, you're going to have some issues where it's going to be stunted for growth and different things like that. That's why it takes a little longer. So the days of maturity are going to be 80 days from when you transplant that guy out into the garden. Confusing, right? Stick around. We'll show you all kinds of things on this channel. So let's back up a little bit. On most of these seed packets, you'll see if the plant is frost hardy, and 2, when to start seeds indoors. You'll see start seeds, 6 to 8 weeks from the last frost date, 3 to 4 weeks from the last frost date. So what you need to do there is you need to go out to almanac.com, go click on the link to find your last frost date by zip code. Put your zip code in there, and you should be able to find the last frost date for your area. Now, this is not a guaranteed number because it's not like a weather service that shuts off the frost at a certain time. But it'll give you a good estimate when you can get into there. What I typically do is when that day comes around, I look at the 10-day forecast. If the 10-day forecast looks good, we're going out there. If the 10-day forecast does not look good, we wait a little longer. So just kind of a little bit of a pro tip there. So what you want to do is you want to see if it tells you when to plant this from seed indoors. That's what I typically do, is start indoors, because that way I get a jump start on the spring. It'll also tell you sometimes that you need to plant them outside 3 to 4 weeks before the last frost. Go ahead and do that as well. So just kind of keep that in mind, and keep that last frost date wrote down, because that's going to be your guideline for you to reverse engineer and work backwards to figure out when you need to start planting and when you need to start organizing these seeds to plant them out. And speaking of which, we're going to be doing an organizing seed video in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Click the subscribe button, get that notification so you know when that video comes out. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is planting depth. That is also primarily somewhere written on here, especially if it's got something like this chamomile here, where it has a specialty planting depth. Chamomile requires light for it to germinate, so basically with this, it tells you just to put the seeds on top of the soil and gently press them in. Broccoli, on the other hand, needs to be covered with the soil. Cilantro the same way. Your tomatoes are going to be the same way. Peppers are going to be the same way. You need to plant them deep, a little bit deeper. Usually it's like 1/4 of an inch or so into the soil. But pay attention to those planting depths. You plant them too deep, they're not going to germinate. Don't plant them deep enough, they're not going to germinate. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's a very key factor on the back of these packets. So this is a lot of information that I've been spouting out to you. Don't worry, I got it all wrote down in a free guide. All you have to do is click the link down below, and it'll walk you through getting that free guide. If you guys like what I'm doing here, consider subscribing to this channel. Also, give me a couple thumbs up if you can. This really helps progress the channel. That's the best way to help a YouTuber progress, is by giving them a thumbs up, subscribing, and leaving a like or leaving a comment down below. What seeds are you guys planting this year? You guys got any favorites that you are planting? You guys got any questions about seed packets? I know that they're all different. I tell you what, all of these are different, have different things written on the back of them. It can kind of be confusing. If you guys have any questions, leave me a question down below. I'll try to answer it the best I can. Cheers, everybody. God bless.